Hi, I'm Imogen Lamport from 16 Style Types.
And I'm Jill Shivers from 16 Style Types. And in this video we're going to talk about how you can sometimes feel an internal sense of conflict with how you're dressing and presenting yourself, and the feedback you might be getting from people, and trying to align how you'd like to dress with the environment that you're in, and sometimes feeling uncomfortable if you potentially a little bit overdressed from others in your environment, and some of those kinds of issues which affect all of us at times, with this sense of being a little bit out of step or feeling uncomfortable within ourselves in the way that we're dressing and with our personality, and trying to strike and chart that authentic style path. I think this is the thing. We're meeting a lot of women who this is really their goal when it comes to their style. They really want to be authentic. They want to be true to themselves, and they're finding that there's a few things that are tripping them up as they're trying to get there, which I really appreciate. I think this is part of the pathway is discovering these things, and sometimes there's a few challenges along the way.
Yeah. So I think sometimes it's this, especially when you're trying something new, one of the things we notice is difference.
Right.
So the minute you do something different from what people have seen you in all the time, it can be seen as a little bit inconsistent.
Right. It stands out.
It stands out because we see difference. It's like when I moved to the UK, people heard my Australian accent. What was funny, after I'd been there for a couple of years, I'd call up my Australian friends and they'd say, "You sound so English." But the English people said, "You still sound Australian." And I realised what they were hearing is they were each hearing the difference.
Right.
And so, it's that sort of thing. We notice difference. So if you've chosen that I'm going to try some new ways of dressing, so I'm going to get a bit more dressed up than I normally have been, then people will comment, where are you going? What are you doing? You've got somewhere special to go? Have you got to go? Or you've got a job interview or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so the thing is then is to go, if this is the way I like to dress and actually makes me feel great, it's then carrying on going, I've got to kind of ignore a bit of that comment and I'm just going to carry on and then become consistent.
Right.
Because it really doesn't take long from that, that kind of first point where, yes, you will get some comments, to then if people just keep seeing you in the same sorts of clothes, then you become consistent.
That becomes a new normal.
It's a new normal. It's the new normal, but it's when it's up and down and up and down and up and down and change.
Yes.
That's when it's more likely that and particularly if you're concerned about comments.
Yeah.
Some people don't care.
Yes.
And what's interesting is some people would rather be underdressed than overdressed, and other people would rather be overdressed than underdressed.
Yes.
So there's no one way,
Yes.
but it's that consistency sort of thing. And I think often that's the key, that yes, you might have to deal with some comments. You just have to smile and go, this is what I felt like wearing today,
Yes.
This is how I dress.
Yeah.
And it really won't be long.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is balancing your own experience of your style and how you want to dress with any kind of feedback that you get from others, and presuming that you're not getting anything outrageous from other people that's wounding, but striking that pathway that's true for you, that what makes you feel good in how you present yourself. I think that's really important, and I think that's part of the authentic style pathway, is to know what works for you. And as we've discussed in another video, drawing from the dressing styles in a way that maybe blends a few things. So if, say, you do have a more dressed up or a more dramatic style or a more creative, or in another way a more visible kind of style, recognizing that there are ways that you can sort of tone that down in some ways whilst keeping the core element of that dramatic or that creative or whatever that essential part is for you to feel like you. And sometimes that might be making the overall look a little bit more casual and using a bolder print or wearing a bolder accessory. Sometimes on days when I do want to be a little bit more dressed down, the thing that makes the difference is accessories.
Yeah.
I will put on a necklace and earrings.
Yeah.
And that alone, I can be wearing yoga pants and some kind of very relaxed jersey kind of top. I put on a necklace and earrings, and suddenly, and coloured ballet flats
or something, yeah.
And all of a sudden, that is now appropriate for me for
Yes.
going down to the grocery store, and no one would look at me and go, "Oh, have you been unwell? Or,
Yes.
or why are you not sort of dressed
up like you normally are?"
Yeah.
And so that kind of like, you might have some way of creating that little bit of consistency, so it's still consistent in some way.
Yes.
Nobody expects you to go to the gym in your formal wear.
No.
It's still appropriate for the situation,
Yeah.
but it's still that it's it's still consistent across time.
Yes.
And I think that's something. And there's also being aware if you are getting comments, is it triggering some sort of emotional thing? And this can sometimes be something, particularly if you're new to type and you're discovering your type and you've railed against how family or other people and you've always felt a bit different. So all those things can come into this. And that if people commenting is triggering something, it might be worthwhile going, well, why is actually that bothering me so much? You know, is this something historically, is something that's happened, do I feel some certain way that it's actually triggering? So it might be actually something you might want to do some sort of internal reflection on why that's actually making you feel so uncomfortable.
And if you do discover your style type and download your style report, on page 5 we have your style pillars, and they have been very carefully constructed. They're different for each of the 16 style types, and they are there to act as a bedrock for your style. And that can also be interesting. If you read them and you have, say, been straying a ways away from them, they can be a way to bring you back, bring you home, bring you to a safe place from which your style can then start to flourish in a way that is unique and true for you. And sometimes when we have gotten off our style pathways, because we've been getting advice from someone who doesn't understand what it's like to be me, what it's like to be you. And so those style pillars are an incredibly useful way of regrounding yourself, reorienting yourself and starting your journey afresh in a way that is truly going to be authentic for you. And it can also be a way of shedding some of the messages that you've picked up along the way that are just not helpful, no matter how well intentioned they may have been. And it can be a way of saying yes to the things that are really going to be helpful to you.
Yeah, so there's just a few little things to think about. If this is something that you've started noticing, particularly if you become more aware, and I think when you start to go, oh, they're my style, and that's what I do, and then becoming more aware of the comments and stuff to go, well, you know, does it bother me? Do I need to be more consistent? Like, what is it that's going to be true for me?
Yeah.